Hi everybody, my name is Curtis Hartland, also known as CJ Hartland, to those of my friends that know me. I suffer from a disorder called ankylosing spondylitis. I've been diagnosed with it since approximately October 2020. Since then, I've been taking medical cannabis every day at 1 gram a day, 1 ounce a month. I sometimes have eyes that water. I've had chest problems involving high triglycerides. I've also suffered from insomnia. I'm a medical cannabis patient, as I said. I'm prescribed 2 grams a day, about 1 ounce a month, which doesn't make sense to me even, but I use whatever I need. I averagely pay $232 for my CBD per month, and I've pretty much opted to growing my own cannabis at home so I can have my own nighttime medicine. I often have days when I'm affected greatly. I have sometimes days where my knees feel like they're gonna give out. I have days also when I feel like my eyes are excessively watery to the point where it's almost searing and blinding. And ankylosing spondylitis also happens to be an autoimmune deficiency, so I'm autoimmune compromised. I basically have my immune system attacking itself. That's what autoimmune means. It means your immune system perceives its healthy cells as the enemy and it attacks itself. So if I get sick, on average, I actually do not get a chance to get well as quick as a person that does not have an autoimmune deficiency. I can actually end up hospitalized if it's severe enough. On average, cold for a normal person to take like a week or two to get over. It can take anywhere from 3 weeks to a month or more for me to get over getting sick. I often wake up with my nose clogged with mucus and my throat filled. I often have to cough and hack up mucus into my trash receptacle that's by my bed, just so I can actually somewhat have a better life. In a way, it almost feels like I'm suffering underwater sometimes. I also at one point was diagnosed with severe sleep apnea, and that also warranted the Ministry of Transportation to ban me from operating any kind of motor vehicles. I can't even drive a riding lawnmower, surprisingly. I'm basically considered a liability with any motorized vehicle, so I can't really drive anywhere, so I'm limited to that. The only way I can get from anywhere is taking the bus. I usually have to pay that per month. My expenses just seem to pile up as I try to find ways to keep my own medical health a little better. I often am living a life with unhealthy food due to legislated poverty. I average pay about $1,300 a month almost, plus hydro. And I have to also pay my tenant insurance, it's mandatory. So that comes out of my check as well. I personally think that it really sucks. I've spent many years wondering if I would ever have a chance. And I think a year ago or even before that, I heard about Bill C-22, which I'm hoping eventually becomes material, but it passed as of June 22nd, getting royal assent, so I'm hoping eventually that they can kind of speed up the process like they did with CERB. My rent is supplemented by Aboriginal clinic housing support because I actually am also part Native. I have Siksika First Nation Blackfoot, I have Métis, I have South Dakota Cherokee, and Mohawk. And my native heritage, I'm also part European because I actually had grandparents that were European as well. My grandmother, as far as I know, had family from Ireland, and my grandfather had family from Scotland. So I'm kind of Irish, Scottish, native. Weird mix, but I'm a very peaceful person. I usually love playing my guitar, occasionally playing video games, trying to be very active. I strongly agree with the fact that everybody deserves to live with some peace and equity. And I've always been a person that stood with people who are protesting for things I believed in. And I'm hoping that from what I've heard about C-22, things change. The biggest thing I'd like to see change is their deadline. They said a year from us, the friggin' Royal Assent, but that deadline's not being met technically, because a year from Royal Assent would be about June or July 2024, but the way it's sounding, C-22 being in bank accounts won't happen until most likely New Year's 2025. So we get a whole year just to basically wonder how much more debt's going to be piled on before it kicks in. And we have to worry about the possibility that insurance companies that supply insurance for like ODSP and other provincial disability support pensions and plans don't decide to claw back the amount as a windfall. I'm hoping that things go great. I'd love to live out of poverty and with dignity, but that's a very rare thing to have. So, by the looks of everything, it's really sad. I mean, today I spent a good portion of my day in my bed, basically trying to find hope, but I also was trying to wait out, having my eye pretty much leaking tears like a ship with a hole in it. That's part of my disease that I have. For my ankylosing spondylitis, I can have many issues. All in all, it's just gonna slowly deteriorate my health over time. I hope someday that they'll find a way to actually give a person more happiness. I also happen to be diagnosed with cross-eye and I'm moderately deaf. I'm a whole world of fucked up, ain't I? Yeah. But the big thing I'd like to say is, for anybody that has an autoimmune disorder, I know what you're going through, because I'm going through it too. It may not be as severe as some, but it doesn't feel fun to deal with this. And I'm sending big hugs to everybody who's dealing with some kind of craziness. This world may be fucked up, but hopefully there's hope someday. And hopefully everybody has a great day. And me, after this video, I'm probably going to take my CBD and medicate and then relax and probably catch up on wrestling, because I have a bunch of wrestling shows I like that I'm going to catch up on most likely. Then I'm probably going to take and probably eat some more freezies or something to try to stay cool. Because my apartment is pretty hot. It's like 30 degrees inside. And that's because I'm running 2 tents. Well, technically 1 plus like a little mini greenhouse. And I'm trying to see if I can get a 3rd plant in for my grow, because this year I've already harvested one of my cannabis plants for a nighttime med called purple silverback. And I'm trying to germinate another seed that is Anunnaki OG, and I have another one that's in germination as a backup, which is wedding cheesecake auto, because I grow autoflowers which take less time to grow. I can grow an autoflower usually in under 3 months, have it trimmed up, dried in 1 week, and it can be cured within 1 month. So while waiting, I usually find ways to get help, and I have awesome support. I also happen to be growing some tomatoes for a friend of mine that are grape tomatoes, so for me that's kind of what I do with my day. I don't like to usually sit around for long. I usually prefer to be sometimes moving around. I'll sometimes get up and do other things. I don't always sit on my butt and smoke weed and just be lounging around that often. I'll sometimes watch stuff sitting up until my back hurts, and then I usually relax it a bit. Tend to my gardens between my cannabis plant and my tomato plant that I'm growing. I tend to enjoy the idea of gardening and growing my own medicine. It definitely would save me a lot of money, and I tend to get enough to last me for a few months. And I often, you know, try my best to help people out along the way when I can. I'm not really an angel or a saint, but what I am is just an average Joe that has a heart. Something that a lot of politicians sometimes lack, because they always constantly say they want to help people, then they vote screw the poor. It's basically a bunch of lies and hypocrisy. I would love to see a day when a politician actually wasn't as crooked as a criminal and as slick as a grease stain. You know, it's sad. Like, we need a better class of politicians. Maybe we should tear down the establishment and rebuild it the way we think it should be. We should have MPs that are actually disabled, that have a compassionate heart, instead of a bunch of bureaucrats that actually would prefer to give big rich corporations money instead of giving people like me and you and everybody else around us that actually is facing this deep poverty a chance to actually live a life with some dignity, if any. Just seems like all it is them pissing on our boot and telling us it's raining. It's just bullshit world around. But I hope you guys will definitely keep me in your minds and thoughts, and I hope I never end up in a wheelchair too soon. I'm only going on 40 in November, and I'm honestly scared of the prospect of becoming a paraplegic, or even, God forbid, a quadriplegic. You know, it's a scary thought to think of, but someday it may be a reality. I mean, my knees are fucked. I've had them feel like they were gonna pretty much bend the opposite way they're supposed to. I occasionally, when I feel bad, I end up walking with a cane. And it's not fun. I actually have my cane near me right now. that's my cane, you guys. That's proof that I walk with a cane. On average, at times when it's bad, this is my best friend. The only thing that keeps me stable. But yeah, that's basically what I live with, is walking with a cane, trying to make life better for myself, and getting told, you know, that I basically am just an extra expense on the government with the way they feel. Like, supposedly there's an increase coming for the end of July of 6.5, which won't really lift anybody out of poverty. It won't help anybody either. All it will do is leave people pretty much shortchanged. And that's thanks to good old Dougie Ford, fat bastard that just does not friggin' care about us poor people, that would rather say fuck the poor and give to the rich. We need a Robin Hood in Parliament, both in Queen's Park and in the House of Commons. That's what we need. We need someone who takes from the bitches and gives to the poor. I can live with that. We need a lot more accountability in our government for sure. And I look forward to the day that we have a Pierre Poilievre government. At least he knows that there's much more to do. And I like his slogans. And I believe that he'd be a better Prime Minister than Justin Trudeau any day. In closing, I say, I'm a proud owner of a Fuck Trudeau flag. How do you like me now?